His mind, isn't it? All right, so 4 projects. Upper control limit green line, lower control limit red line. All of those 4 fit the rules, which, by the way, I didn't show it to you, so I have to show it now. If your throughput or velocity is outside the limits 3 times in a row, your system is not stable. There are 5 or more points in a sequence, meaning that they're all going down, or they're all going up. These are the rules that I've used empirically. I cannot explain the mathematical theory behind this, so don't ask about that because I have no clue. This is the observation, not the theory. I hope that we will get to the theory at some point. And another 4 projects. And also all of these 4 fit. We have 22 projects in a database. I'll put the link up later. And you can go and apply this to all those 22 projects and write your own blog posts and share with the community about that. So the key point here is that the no estimates approach that I've been using actually delivers value. It delivers also an expectation on when it is going to be released, when the project is going to be released. So I took one project, and by the way, this is a project based on real data, but it's only one project. There are many more, and we need more people to look into this and to challenge this, to see if this applies in all contexts or not. But this is one project where I asked very simple question between story points, estimates, and just counting the stories delivered per sprint, that is the throughput, which metric is more accurate when compared to what actually happened in the project. This was a long project, 24 sprints. And what we did was we calculated how many stories will be delivered and how many story points will be delivered if we take the average of the first 3 sprints and then if we take the average of the first 5 sprints. The question B is allowing for the fact that the team is learning, and the more you go into the future, the more secure you are about what you're going to deliver or the amount of stories or story points that you will deliver. This is only one project, right? This is not a theory. This helps us build a model, but we still need to make theory out of this. And I'm not the right guy for this because I suck at mathematics. It took me a long time to understand statistical process control. So anyway, you will find 21 more projects behind this bit.ly link, and then you can apply this yourself. So we have story points predictive power on the left and number of stories predictive power on the right, number of stories being the no estimates approach. The true output of that particular project was 349 and a half story points completed. Don't ask about the half. The predicted output, if you take the first 3 sprints and you just project the average through the next 21, was 418. So obviously the prediction, if we use the story point count, would be 20% off. On the wrong side, by the way. It would take 20% more time to deliver. The true output of number of stories was 228. The predicted output was 220. Again, this is the no estimates approach. And that's a 4% underestimation of what was delivered. So you make the decision which one you would pick. But let's take the 5 sprint view. Maybe it got better for the story points. And it did. The true output, of course, we knew already, was 349 and a half. But the predicted output was 396 story points completed at the end of the 24 sprints. And that's a 13% overrun, meaning that it would take 13% more to deliver than what they expected if they were using this to predict the throughput or the output of the project. And the number of stories was 228, the predicted output with 5 sprints. This is not a mistake, this is not a copy-paste error. The predicted output was 220, the same 4% error or difference to the output that actually happened. So yes, it is true that according to this particular anecdotal evidence, if you take more sprints into your story point projection, you will probably be more accurate. This is not yet prove that it will happen forever, but it is a possibility. But we also saw that for the story points, again, not proof, but an indication that if you just count the story points, or if you take the throughput into account, or if you take the no estimates approach into account, the difference is not that relevant. Again, this is only one project, so I want to be very clear, we need a lot more data points, and that's why I encourage you to share data with us, right? We have a database, you can send the data, and we'll put it up on the database.
One question, please.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to take questions until the end now, because I want to respect people's wishes to go for lunch at 1 o'clock. And then after that, we can take all the questions you want. So of course, which metric was more accurate? The no estimates approach or number of stories was more accurate. But the thing is, and this is what really screws with me, I really can't get my head around it. The thing is that even estimate proponents recognize that estimations are crap. This is from Software Estimation by Steve McConnell, one of the most read authors on software estimation. The next one is Mike Cohn. I'll let you judge which one is best. And he says, hey, 80% of the projects late or failed. By the way, that's late or failed compared to estimates. If I present you a process that delivers 20% success rate, would you like to take it? That would be stupid. This is what Steve McConnell is saying. He's saying this in the book. All estimates are crap, so let's do more of it.
Estimate better.
Yeah. And we've been estimating better, or trying to estimate better, since the 60s. It's still not working. What the hell?
It's only a tool for pressure.
Yeah, it's a tool for pressure. Hey, socialist in the audience. Anyway, oops. It gets even worse with the large projects. If you see the size of function points and lines of code, and you look at the late and failed / cancelled rate, it's unbelievably large. It's 87%. I'm bad at maths. Did 87? Because that's 101% if I count right. Anyway, a very large percentage of projects that are large fail. So obviously there's two things you could do. Either you follow the no estimates, or you can have small projects. You take the pick. This is another graph from the same guy. By the way, this book, Software Estimation, is about selling you on the idea of estimating. Better, obviously, not just estimating, because it failed before, but I know how to do it better. And he looks at this graph. By the way, that 45-degree angle line is perfect accuracy. Estimation versus delivered, perfect accurate. But you see there that most of the crosses are far, far, far higher than that. And one of them, the one that is right about here, but near the 260, is a project that should have lasted something like 7 days, and it lasted 260 some days. And he's using this to defend the use of estimates. Can you honestly go to your boss and say, hey, here, this is our record of success, according to estimates, and we should do more of it. This is a really good idea. It's like those, what is it, those night shopping TV in the US guys. Buy this vacuum cleaner. It's really great. So this is my statement, and this is my personal statement. I can't back this up with official scientific proof, but I think that selling estimates is selling snake oil. And anyone that is selling you a process that depends on estimates for your projects to be successful is tricking you. I mean, Steve McConnell is making a lot of money selling his tools and his process for estimation, which of course in the book he proves are much better, but he never discloses the actual data of the projects that were estimated with his estimation technique, which can't be much different than this, because this is a very large population of projects. This is what reality is. This is like looking at different measurements of the gravity force, which is 9.8 meters per second squared. and looking at some measurements that are 10 and some measurements that are 9.5 and so on, and arguing that the value is 25 or 1. This is stupid. What this graph tells you, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's no way in hell we'll ever be good at estimation. That's what this graph tells you. And the same graph is used by Steve McConnell to sell you a better estimation process. You guys play the lottery, by the way? How many of you play the lottery? I hope you do it for charity. Estimation and lottery, pretty close. Yeah, and you believe that all other organizations will be different. I'll take questions later. But, by the way, I do want to do a little bit of retrospective coherence and say that this is not scientific graph. This is only used for the purposes of illustration. Do not quote this graph in scientific papers or Morandil on Twitter. Laurent Bossavit, for those who know him, he will put my name in the Leprechauns book, and I don't want that. Anyway, this is what typical projects would look like. And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, because when are you going to try to get a project done half the time that you estimated that it will take? Never. So obviously the project length will always be skewed towards later. This is so obvious it has a name. Actually, it has several names. Parkinson's law, all work expends to fill the available time, and the student syndrome. When do you study for the exam? The night before. That's how projects are. They are exactly like this. They follow the same rules, just like most human endeavors. This is 17 projects. By the way, it doesn't get much better than this, so if you want to go for lunch, it's a good time to go now. This is 17 projects ending between 2001 and 2003 using a waterfall process, so not Agile, because when we went to Agile in that company, we used time boxes, and you can't be late in a time box. You can miss the scope, but you can't miss the date, because it's a time box, right? I loved it because they gave us bonuses by being on time. And I said, hey, hell yeah, give me more, because I was always on time. I changed the process so I could not be late, so I was happy for getting bonuses for being on time. And you could do the same, by the way, and this is money in the bank, guaranteed. Anyway, 17 projects. The blue line is the estimate when the project was approved, and the Bordeaux line is the estimate when the requirements were completed. This was a waterfall project, a set of waterfall projects, so don't forget about that. And you look at this, and the average delay was 62%. How can you sell this to a company? But they did. Rational unified process, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to go back, that's what you will get. Also known as another form of waterfall. So, my final argument is, I have been to the future. They have spaceships there. And I went up and I saw the Earth from space. And it was round. Seriously. It is round. It's not flat. I've seen it. There's a picture. That's how it feels to be part of the no estimates movement. It feels like I just went to the future. But my main goal with this talk, and I'll end here. Hey, we're ahead of schedule. Who would have guessed that? My main goal for today is that I hope that I have instilled a little bit of doubt in your mind. I hope that some of you who were skeptics when they entered here are still skeptics, but you have perhaps said to yourselves, I'll try it out. There will be an open space about how you can try it out. I will organize one of those. And maybe if Henry is willing, he can tell his story, because it's a very good story in that open space. So you can hear how he went through the process of figuring this out on his own. Started even before the no estimates thing was cool. So he's a hipster. No estimates hipster. So this is my goal for the talk today. I don't want to change your world. I want to just leave a little bit of doubt. Hey, maybe the Earth is really round. How would I check that? how would I check if the Earth is round? And the open space will answer that question, so thank you very much. Don't forget to give feedback as you leave the room, please, and as verbose as you can make it. Insults are okay, but I would rather have constructive feedback. Thank you. Probably here. Wait a second.
I think
It's
yes.
at lunch, the other microphone.
Oh! Here we go. No?
It's actually a comment. First of all, over a period of time, a team gravitates towards having about tasks or stories of about the same size. And even the product owner, over months, gravitates towards that. So at that point, counting the stories is just as easy and actually eliminates the time it takes to estimate. But the second point, and this is the more important one, is it's never been about, at least for me, it's never been about the estimation itself. It is about the conversation that happens during estimation and understanding what is to be delivered, what problem is to be solved, and that the people who will be working on it have arrived at a convergent understanding. So that's the more important part, that I wouldn't want to throw that baby out with the bathwater of just counting stories.
You can just pass it around to the next, I think it was here.
You were next?
All right, so
Okay,
first, the first comment was,
Count. Convergence of
yeah,
size.
convergence. Okay, so here's a trick you can take to the bank and it will make you converge tomorrow. If you start tomorrow, it will be done tomorrow. Ask for every single story, will it be done tomorrow? And if the answer is no, break it in half. And in one day, you will have all of the stories about the same size.
Yeah.
Also, you will get the extra benefit of actually understanding what you're doing, because you can't break it down to less than a day unless you understand what you're doing, which answers your second question. So I find estimates an extremely poor attempt at creating conversation and dialogue about the content of the work that we need to do. There's a couple of reasons for that. First, everybody's defensive. Oh, you will hold me to blame if I fail. Second, it completely diverges the attention from understanding to getting the number. And third, we have enough intelligent people in the community that know how to create dialogue without having to use the most boring approach ever, like story points estimates with planning poker. Whoever created that should be shot. Because I have never seen a happy developer using planning poker. Not even one. Okay, maybe, granted, I might be an outlier, so you might have different experiences. Don't take my experience as the only one, but I've always been extremely frustrated by the estimation process, including when using what are supposed to be fun games like story planning poker estimation.
What makes you say that you can do 10 stories and then the next sprint, if your boss asks, when you statistically were proved that you were always giving 4 stories, making 4 stories. So that was that question, that the boss asked you for 10 stories in the next sprint and you said that you can do it.
No, I said the opposite. I said that no sane person would think they could do it. Because if I've taken 4 steps every second for the last 5 hours, it's unlikely I can suddenly take 40 steps every
My
second.
mistake, I thought that you raised the hand when you said
This was the feeling.
Yeah, so
you raised the hand and you
I
can do it.
apologize.
So,
I
yeah.
apologize for that. I was trying to be sarcastic.
Okay.
Obviously, I failed.
You are too good. It's okay. And
There's a question there?
I also have another one.
Okay.
What does
Can you pass the microphone?
Yeah. What does on time means with no estimates? I mean,
It means whenever it's done, which means that you might actually deliver stuff that is good for the customer and they say, hey, we don't need to invest anymore. We're fine with this. And this has happened.
but you cannot say anything about a deadline. I mean,
Oh no, on the contrary. One of the key approaches with no estimates that I didn't discuss in this presentation was that you should always set the release date based on your business goals. Because the thing is that we've all heard of the iron triangle, right? Iron triangle, you know, time, scope, resources. If you fix all three, you're going to fail, whether you like it or not, right? So one of them at least has to be flexible. And typically the only one we can flex is scope, because you can't change the team that fast. You can't suddenly buy a bunch of, you know, magic machines that make the work go faster. So time, scope, resources. You can change the time and you can change the scope. For most companies that I've worked at, and this is my own experience, the time is fixed. I've worked in consumer software, which means that when Christmas comes, you sell. When Christmas goes, you stop selling. So you don't actually have the choice of selecting the time because it's set by the market. Actually, many companies, more than they would care to admit, are in this position, even IT departments. But, you know, I'm talking about my own domain, shrink-wrapped consumer software. And for us, time was never a variable. So the only thing we were left with was scope. And that's what we focused on. And no estimates is actually completely about scope. But for some reason, people on Twitter don't care about talking about positive things. So when somebody used the no estimates hashtag, the conversation just went ballistic and all, okay. The people have spoken, we have a name.
You were talking about the Agile world, right? And no estimates in Agile world, probably in Scrum, not Kanban. And you've said that the line manager comes to the team and asks them to do 10 stories. My question is, who is this line manager in Scrum world, in Agile world? Because we have only the PO and Scrum Master. And in case somebody comes, where is the Scrum Master to defend the team? So the question is about who will defend the team when this clueless manager comes in and asks for 10 stories. The actual question is, this kind of scenario that you've described, can it really happen in an Agile world? Okay. Is it possible to happen? Let's ask the audience. How many of you have been in a similar situation? Can you raise your hands? So not everybody, but some people. And how many of you are or pretend to be doing Agile? About the same amount of people. So there you go. You can ask them how it happened to them. For me, this was every sprint planning. And every single sprint planning, product owner, line manager, sales guy, everybody was coming in and saying, hey, come on, hey, you can, you know, fit 2 more stories in that. Okay. This is why we pay you. Okay, but sorry, this is how it happened. I'm not faking. A little bit. I agree that Scrum is not implemented in the right way all over the place, but I think that it should be stated, we are doing Scrum and then you cannot do that, or we are trying to take practices from Agile and Scrum, and then line manager, PO, or whatever their name may be, can come to the team and say, I don't care what you do, but these 10 stories, you have to try to do that. So you'll just have to believe me that I've been in dysfunctional Agile teams. And apparently some other people have. So if we could go, because I can't argue against what you said. What you said is true, but that's an ideal. This is not what is happening. So I'm sorry. I'm happy that you have never met a dysfunctional Agile team. I have met many of them.
So you said that you're supposed to get all your stories and break them up until they're one day.
No, not all. Only the top, the ones you can work on.
Then how can you project into...
Oh, another question for the open space! Bingo! Details at the open space. I told you we were going to have an open space about the details.
Maybe mine
Keep it in, don't forget about it, right?
Maybe mine is also for the open space. Because, okay, I'm an advocate to the no estimate thing. I really like it. But let's pretend this situation. I don't know, I work for a bank. Yeah.
Let's pretend you work for an hypothetical bank.
Yeah.
A large one.
A large one.
Yeah.
A Dutch one. So
all the Dutch.
So we have this big project called SEPA, maybe a regulatory project, and we have to do it because otherwise we are in huge trouble. So you have to create this structure, whatever, or amount of teams, amount of people to do this. Just before, you have to outline this and say, okay, am I able to do this or not? How would you manage this? How would you say the top management? How would you manage this without
I want to be very clear. There are many people, including perhaps some in the room, that think that you can't live without estimates. So I'm not going to change your mind. Estimate. If that's what you're being asked to do, if that's what has always been done where you work, just do it. Why the hell go through fighting with management about it? Just do it. On the other hand, in the back end, you can smartly be managing the backlog in a different way. Not changing the content. I'm not talking about lying. I'm just talking about picking up smaller pieces of work, constantly talking about prioritizing small pieces of work, constantly measuring the throughput of the teams individually and as a group. And you can use that to learn about whether you will deliver. Not if you estimate that you will deliver, that you will deliver that on time. Because I want to tell you a story. For those of you that want to go to lunch, this might take a while, and we're already like over time. So sorry about that. You can go to lunch now. I won't feel bad, etc. But there's a story. I'm sorry, I want to continue. The story is a project. It was about 500 people. And I was talking to the project manager, and I looked at my no estimates data, not the estimates that the developers were giving the project manager. I looked at the data that I had, the throughput of those teams together, and I said, there's no way in hell we can make this on time. And this was 6 months into the project that was supposed to be 1 year long. And I went to the project manager and I said, there's no way in hell we can deliver this on time. You have to cut scope. You have to remove functionality to release on time. Christmas is coming. If you don't make Christmas, it's another year before you can release the product. Are you crazy? Company's going bankrupt if you don't release the product. And he turned to me and he said, yeah, but the developers, they told me they're going to do it. Now think about this. This is a complex system, 500 people, lots of integration problems, as you can imagine. And he asked every single developer, can you do it? And you said yes. Can you do it? And you said yes. Can you do it? And you said yes. Who the hell thinks about how do we integrate all of this crap? What matters is the throughput of the freaking system. It's not whether every single individual developer thinks they can do their own work in time. Because it doesn't matter. Everybody can do their work in time and we still don't deliver anything. So we need to look at the throughput. So give them the estimate and then measure the throughput. Because that's the only sane thing to do. You can't fight management. Look, your managers will very likely lose their bonus if you give them the wrong estimate. You know what they do when they lose their bonus? They're not very happy. And if your manager is not very happy, you are not going to be very happy. Right? So give them the estimate and then forget about it and measure your throughput.
Yeah, but Vasco, sorry.
Sorry, there were other people that wanted, because with you we can go like 2 days.
Oh, come on.
So next. Otherwise we can finish. Okay, one more.
Super quick.
Super quick.
Everything you said rings okay. I believe I participated in a workshop by Mary Poppendijk 5 years ago that more or less synthesized all the no estimate thing in like 30 seconds, drawing on a board and doing SPC. But the point is, there we were talking about lean software development, and doing flow, minimizing work in progress, simply leads to having no estimates. It is a direct inference from the process that you apply. How do you think about Scrum in this way? Because Scrum includes a step of the process that is constant estimation every 1, 2, 3 weeks, whatever your cycle time is.
Scrum is wrong. That's it. Next question. No, I was being facetious now. The point is that you can use no estimates or any kind of process, including waterfall, but you have to know how to do it, and Scrum. So, for example, the story that I just told was about a project where we had waterfall teams, we had Kanban teams, we had object-oriented methodology teams, we had Scrum teams, we had all kinds of teams, because I was looking at the throughput of the system. I could predict what was going to happen. Oh, and by the way, to kill the suspense, the project was 1 year late, and it was cancelled. Sorry, 6 months late, so it was 1.5 years. I told the project manager at the 6-month mark, this is going to fail. He ignored me. My fault. I should have been more, perhaps, convincing. And the project went 6 months late, and then at that point the company said there's no point in investing any more money. The market has changed. Let's just can this whole project. 500 people working for 1.5 years, and the project goes up like that.
Happens.
And we could have predicted that. Actually, we did predict that. 6 months in.
I have one question. How you can estimate?
Do you have the microphone? Okay.
How you can estimate when you cannot estimate? For example, you are forced to estimate something, like what time for developing something, but because of the complexity or I don't know the bugs that can appear, you are not able to say like 2 days, 4 days, 1 week, I don't know. But you have to do it.
I have no idea. I'm glad I'm sorry.
I sometimes are.
Some problems have been solved. That particular one hasn't. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, guys, I also want to have some lunch. And we can talk over lunch, or then we can talk over open space. So.